Let's talk about the biggest developments in the college football world. A lot of visits took place this weekend, so there was a lot of movement, and we are going to start in Austin because Texas gets number one quarterback on campus, and we're talking about the 2027 cycle, but these guys are flying off the board. 5 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the 27 cycle are already committed, and a decision could be coming soon for number one. At least that's what Steve Wiltfong said on the recent Wiltfong whip around. And this weekend, number one quarterback Kavian Bryant was in Austin to watch Texas roll over Sam Houston. And, it was an important visit because heading into the trip, Wiltfong said it himself, Texas Tech and FSU seemed to be just ahead of Texas in the pecking order for number one quarterback Kavian Bryant. But you got to ask yourself, how involved does Texas want to be? I mean, they already have Diabell on the hook for this cycle. Are they really in the position to allocate the funds of signing another number one? I mean, that could be kind of some of the underlying storyline of this recruitment. It might not be that Texas is losing him to Texas Tech or FSU. It just might be that they don't want to have, because we know Texas has the funds if they need them, but how many number one quarterbacks can you stack on top of each other before somebody's going to transfer out? And with Diabell already in the fold, maybe they're making a financial decision with Kavian Bryant. But either way, he was on campus, so we know there's some level of interest. But that wasn't it for Texas. They also had Oregon athlete Jalen Lott visiting. That was a big development that we didn't see coming until the day of the game. Should Oregon fans, Oregon fans know Jalen Lott is a legacy recruit of the Texas Longhorns, and that recruitment is not shut down. We're going to talk more about it with Sam Spiegelman and get some of the intel there, but a huge visit weekend for Texas, official visit weekend for Derek Cooper. And he's from Miami, and there was a big game down in Miami this weekend with the Gators coming to town, but the Texas staff said, you're not going to go watch Miami win a rivalry game. You're going to come here. We're going to bring your whole family in. We're going to wine you, dine you, pay for your trip. It's an official visit. Let's roll out the burnt orange carpet. And also, let's bring in Tyler Atkinson, another 5-star recruit. Also, defensive lineman Corey Wells, who we thought was going to flip to Auburn last weekend. He was back on campus. So Texas recruiting staff made a statement this weekend. Not only did they bring in the number one quarterback, they brought in a major flip target, plus their other priority commitments. Just huge visit weekend for the Texas Longhorns. All right, Miami, they proved themselves against rival UF. We know Mario Cristobal cares about these in-state rivalry games. And if you're at Florida State, or Miami, and you're the head coach, you have to care. Because if you don't win enough of these games, it doesn't matter what you do outside of the rivalry games. If you don't win enough of these rivalry games, you're going to find yourself looking for a new job. And Miami, they did a heck of a job. The score of 26-7 didn't really indicate what happened on the field. It seemed like Miami really dominated, especially in the trenches. That offensive line leaned on them. Jackson Cantwell, the number one overall offensive tackle, had to love what he saw from Mario Cristobal's offensive line unit, just imposing their will. There was a lot of flip targets on campus, including Calvin Russell. He's committed to Syracuse. He came in repping Malachi Toney, his buddy. They were high school teammates just a year ago. Now Malachi Toney out on the field making huge plays. Anthony Tank Jones was back on campus. That's a big one. We did expect him to be there. Oregon fans, they just got him on campus recently. Now that's 2 visits to Miami, 1 visit to Oregon. We'll see. I bet Oregon gets him back on campus. That recruitment not over, but Anthony Tank Jones recruitment is certainly hot. All right, let's move out to Lincoln, where number one recruit in America visits Nebraska. Kennedy Brown, the top player in the 2027 cycle, was on the sidelines. It was 27-30. Nebraska just barely falls to Michigan, and they need to be more physical. So you got Kennedy Brown on campus. He's there almost 2 years before his final decision takes place, and I think this game made a big impression on him. Nebraska fans, you can let me know if I'm wrong, but 27-30, it's not like they got embarrassed. Like I said, there's a need on that offensive line where a player like Kennedy Brown could hypothetically step in and play right away. And, Nebraska's been involved for some of these guys, like a Jackson Cantwell, like a David Sanders, but I think getting Kennedy Brown a year and a half before his decision comes is a big move. We'll talk more Nebraska this week, and of course, we'll talk more Kennedy Brown and the Huskers. All right. 5-star wide receiver Sedarian Morgan visits Colorado. Coach Prime has been a little quiet on the recruiting trail, especially when it comes to high school recruiting this cycle. But you know he's good for a surprise 5-star, and could Sedarian Morgan be the one? He's the number 3 ranked wide receiver in America, number 24 overall, 6'4", 220. That would look good out there in Boulder. Only one problem. Sedarian Morgan is committed to Alabama, and he has been since July. He's from the state of Alabama, but he looked good out there in Boulder. He was standing on the sidelines talking to Coach Prime pregame. Looked like he was really soaking it in. Big visit right there. You know, not everybody had Sedarian Morgan in Colorado on their radar, but he pops up in Boulder, and now we will be talking much more about Colorado in the coming weeks, especially when it comes to 5-star wide receiver Sedarian Morgan. All right. Those were the big recruiting developments on my radar, but you guys tell me what you saw this weekend. What stood out to you? Let me know. Comment section below.